Hunter, you've made a name for yourself as a guitar player and photographer, all while embracing an active outdoor lifestyle while surfing and fishing. Your creativity extends beyond music. You've built your own guitars and given new life to old cameras, making you a cornerstone of our creative community. But what I want to know is, do you think you are creative?
I think I'm pretty creative. I've come this far, I've had to create a lot from nothing. But yeah, I'm always trying to stay busy and always trying to, whether it's music or photography or always had a creative side to me that just wants to, make something from nothing.
Yeah.
Um, it's something about creating whether it's music or photography. It's creating something that lasts too, something to be remembered by, or something that you're making an impression on somebody that hopefully they'll enjoy. I mean, you always create it for yourself, but you're always kind of putting it out there in the hopes that it hits somebody else too, the way that it brings joy to you. So I always try to keep creative. If I'm not playing music, then I'm trying to do photography or writing, or I've always been into art and things like that. So I wasn't good at math, so I had to go the other way.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you there.
Yeah.
So, where did it start with you? Because I mean, you're like, I came this far with being creative. So, where was the start?
I mean, when I was young, I had a thing for art. Always wanted to draw, always wanted to color, painting. Started doing that when I was at a young age. And, there was always just this yearning for music too. I could always hear it and listen to it and loved it, and it hit me some way that I also wanted to make it. Not just listen to it, but I wanted to create it as well. So I always begged for guitars or drums, and whoever gave me something that could make noise, I tried to make noise on. And it wasn't until I was about 12 that I finally got my first guitar. And it turns out you actually had to learn how to play it to make the noise. Made a lot of noise,
Yeah.
but
Like
for other
something.
people to start enjoying the creativity and art side of it, you had to learn how to do it. So it's always been, a challenge. I love challenging myself, and just it's cool to see your growth once you start with creating art and just see how you evolve from it.
And it's, I mean, even with that being said, because I remember picking up the guitar when I was 10,
Yeah.
and then my buddy just showed me those power chords, like just put your hand here,
Oh
and
yeah.
then just move it all around, and here's Brain Stew by
Once you get the
Green Day.
first one.
Exactly. But it's
Yeah.
like back then, I mean, for me at least, I didn't even realize I was just like bonding with my instrument,
Mhm.
bonding with my craft, and then just being able to look back and be like, holy crap, I came so far,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
I mean, once that first, chord structure or song comes together, once that hits, it's like surfing to me. When you catch your first wave, there's no other feeling in the world to describe it. It's just like a freeing feeling, and it's just like that's what starts the addiction to the creativity process of music. You're just like, all right, I've done that. Now, what else can I do? And just
Yeah, it's just like that craving to just do and
yep,
just be. I mean, almost like be busy sort
yeah.
of thing too. So I mean, like yeah, I mean, you live such an active lifestyle too. If you're not just working with your hands in this department or working with your mind in this department, or
Mm-hmm.
actually like using your body and going fishing or going surfing.
Hmm. Yeah.
What love came first though? Was it surfing or music, or just kind of like did it all just kind of pile in at once?
I mean, it was all always kind of around the same time, but the ocean and the sea, that was always my first love. As a kid, just growing up, getting to go boating and stuff with my family. So that was always the most freeing thing for me. But I think the music side of things started when we moved out a little west of town, a little far from the ocean. And it was probably an hour ride to the beach every day if I wanted to go. So what did I do out west? Other than fishing or riding dirt bikes and stuff like that. It's you get bored in your room, so that's when the listening to music started happening. That's when the how do I make this started happening, and that's what gave me a lot of time to practice and kind of
Not
get
even
good at
realizing
it.
you're practicing, right? Pretty
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. When you had nothing better to do, you practice.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too, is like that luckily I was in an isolated state to where I could really start to hone in on it. Wish I could go back these days, because now you get so busy that it's hard to practice and keep growing with it. But
Or even just simpler times
yeah,
too. I
simpler
mean,
times.
we're
Yeah,
not
you
we're
didn't
not
have
too
phone
far in
back.
age, but I
Yeah,
remember starting off where YouTube wasn't even a thing.
yeah, yeah,
So just being able to just play just from just the craving of other people sort of
yeah.
thing. And then when YouTube did come out in like '06, it's like in sixth grade, so the ability to stop a video, see where their hands are, and like
Yeah.
rewind it, and just being able to kind of like bond in that way
Yeah,
too.
back then it was you just had to stop your stereo, your CD player, rewind the track, and then you could maybe like isolate the guitar part through one speaker. You could pan it left or right, and that's
Yeah.
how you learned your parts. Nobody was showing you. You just had to really listen and like, finger around the whole board until you hit that note.
Some
That
good ear training for
Yeah,
sure. So
absolutely.
what kind of music were you listening to when you're kind of getting into that, like that really craving bonding with your
Yeah.
instrument, playing music?
I mean, back then, I mean, I thought it was the funniest thing. My pops always said when I started getting a guitar, that he'd just be like, "You learn this one Led Zeppelin song," and he's like, "And you're a good guitar player." But man, after I played that one Led Zeppelin song probably 100 times in my room for a week, and finally got it, and he's just like, "Hey, maybe try to learn something else now."
What was the song?
Oh, I think it was Whole Lot of Love or something like
Fuck yeah.
that. Yeah, every time we were on a car trip or something, he just cranked through, stopped the stereo real quick before that Jimmy Page like
Yeah,
riff
yeah.
came in, and he'd blast the stereo. It's like if I do this, I'll impress my dad.
Oh, like so. Besides that, what did you crave with music and your guitar?
I mean, I always loved the music that he listened to too, and then I started getting into. I mean, thank God we had the Buzz 103.1
Oh
back
my
then.
gosh, yeah.
But that was the radio station that kind of showed me punk and grunge and things like that. And it was still rocky and in your face, but it was a little more loose, a little more. I wouldn't say like more creative. I mean, Led Zeppelin was always really creative, but
Hmm.
it was just sloppy,
Yeah.
which
It's a beautiful mess.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course. And I thought that was the coolest thing that there were no rules to what they were doing. So that's when I really got into Nirvana and like bands like NoFX and Blink-182 and Green Day and all that stuff back then. And that those trying to be like them, trying to sound like them. So you'd sit with your amp in your room for hours trying to figure out the tones they were getting with your Boss Digitech. Remember those
Yeah.
things?
Too well. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It had 90 effects in one little pedal, and you just try to figure it out.
Oh
I
my God.
mean, I probably had a really nice amp. I sold my dirt bike to get it. It was a really nice stack,
That's a
Jensen.
serious step.
Yeah, but I had nobody to play with, so I had this stack in my room,
Yeah.
just Jen's Ben
Just
stack.
crushing Led Zeppelin tunes
I
as loud
was,
as
and I got pretty
possible.
close to the tone. So I had this $2,000 amp and this $20 pedal. Man, I was trying to sound as much like him as possible.
And that's the way to do it, not
Yeah,
the other way around.
yeah,
Some
of
people
course.
spend so much money on the pedals and
Yeah,
then they just skimp out on the amps. They're like, I don't understand why it sounds like shit.
yeah,
And then they're doing a whole daisy chain through a whole thing effect. I'm like, yeah, 9 volts doing all that. No wonder why.
yeah, of
And I'm
course.
speaking from personal
Yeah,
experience.
of course. It's all in the amp.
So when did you take it from the bedroom and start playing with a band or multiple people, or kind of start exploring in that way?
It started with like the garage bands. I think like how most people started, and some kids that also had a guitar. You knew a kid that had a drum set. Your parents would drive you to a garage on the weekends at somebody's parents' house that didn't mind or weren't home.
Yeah, yeah, for real.
And then you just started to jam, and you weren't good, but it was fun, and it was the best feeling in the world hearing other people play along with you. And it was a growing experience in itself, is learning how to like play with other people, not too loud, not too quiet, on time and things like that. So that was the early stages. Did we play any shows? No, but we played in that garage for hours, and the neighborhood kids would come, and it was kind of like your first
Oh
show.
hell yeah.
And then the neighbors would come over and ask you to turn it down or off, and it was kind of like still to this day playing in
Yeah,
a
yeah, for
restaurant.
real.
But
In different scenarios, it's kind of
yeah,
relatable. So you're kind of learning that experience
for
early.
sure. And then from there, I kind of the garage band never took off, so I kind of doing solo stuff. So I think one of my first shows ever out live in front of people was at the Orange Door back in the day,
Oh no shit.
in Lake Park.
Were you singing too, or?
Yeah, I was singing and writing my own songs. I think my guitar teacher hit me up. He said, "Hey, we're doing like an acoustic showcase. I know you play. I know you talked about writing songs." He's like, "Could you do it?" And I was like, "Sure. When is it?" And he's like, "This weekend." And I was like, "Oh boy." So I wrote out a bunch of songs as quick as I could with my own lyrics and stuff like that. And I was in high school at the point. And then made it work. And I got up there. I had my music stand with my lyrics. I couldn't remember them all in time.
Yeah.
But I think I had like 40 kids from high school come out to the Orange Door that night to see me play, because I had a lot of friends in high school. I got along with everybody and did
Mhm.
everything. So I think that my guitar teacher called me back next week. He's like, "Dude, owner of the Orange Door, like, I've never seen the place so packed. So can you
Dude,
play again next week?" And I was like, "Sure, sure." Because I mean, my parents and their friends all came out,
of
so they were
course. Yeah,
drinking. The
yeah,
kids weren't drinking.
yeah.
Maybe not, but who
Yeah.
knows? But he's like, yeah, man, you packed out the place. Can you come back? And I was just like, it was my first show. Sure, I'll try again.
How were you? So it's just all originals? You played some covers too? Do you
um,
remember kind of how the show was? You mean your
I
first
do. I
live
mean, I was
show?
nervous as hell. I think after all the preparation and trying to write songs and get my lyrics down, I get up on stage and the damn battery was dead in my acoustics. So I had to borrow
Oh my
somebody's,
god.
of course. But it was just I mean, it was so nerve wracking being up in front of people for the first time. Like performing your own songs. Like I played a talent show and did a
Yeah.
cover of Badfish or something
But
like
being
that.
by yourself on a stage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
With your peers around you, for
yeah, and
sure.
especially doing your own stuff. You're like, man, I hope people like these songs. But I wrote about songs about my friends and stuff like that, so they all kind of relate and had a good time. But it was a great experience. I think it's still on a VCR tape somewhere in
No
my
way.
house. Yeah.
Oh, you got to dig that up.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been converted here at this shop. Sure, it's around somewhere. But yeah, that was the start of the music thing. Was my first show there. Then it evolved into got into a band with Root Shakedown and started playing my first shows with bands out live, and it just took off from there. And it was fun. I hit the road a couple times, wrote some songs and stuff. But that's when the process of where I am now really started moving along.
From just having that itch, being asked, playing solo out, and then just kind of being connected with a band, kind of all through
Yeah, I
that
think
too.
my parents were friends with Tony and Roots' band, and it's like, oh, my son plays guitar, and Tony's like, oh, we're looking for a lead player.
Yeah.
I think it was right after Perry had left them, and I was like, I don't know how to play much lead. I play like acoustic and write my own songs, but sure, I'll figure it out. I know the pentatonic scale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, freaking.
Fake it till you make it. So I started playing some pentatonic scales over their stuff, and that's when I really was like, okay, maybe I'm a guitar player now.
Was that your first kind of introduction to reggae style music?
No, I grew up on reggae. That was just the surf culture down here, the Florida culture. Everybody listened to Slightly Stupid and Sublime, and a big influence of mine was Box Elder and everything they were doing back then. They were the band to go see if you could get into their shows.
Yeah, for real.
But that's where the reggae thing really took off, and I knew it well. From listening to it for so many
It
years.
bleeds into like a bunch of musicians and creatives to
Yeah.
some facet or another way.
For sure, it's all rooted into something. So I knew how to pick up on it pretty quick, and had the right guitar effects and stuff for it. So it all worked out pretty well, and then took off into other bands from there to where I am today.
Yeah, so from being a writing, performing musician, and then now just kind of getting an understanding of like guitar tones, how it
Yep.
works, chasing kind of like that sound. And then I mean, I remember
Yeah.
from you, like you've built your own guitars before.
Yeah, that was a fun endeavor. Speaking of creativity,
Yeah.
I don't know. The guitars that I was buying were working too well, and I decided to build my own, so they didn't.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But that was fun. I think Mike McCleary got me started on that. He, would show me that he put together a couple guitars, different parts, and like show me all these cool things that he was doing to them. And I was like, ah, man, that's pretty cool. I want to get into that one day. And we ended up going to a guitar expo together
Where was that at?
up in Orlando. Me, him, and Blake from Helen Holler
Yeah.
went up there. Blake Burns, and we all bought like these $30 guitar bodies. I think I actually didn't yet. I think I got scared, and then Mikey ended up selling me his because he felt so bad for me on the car ride home. Like, man, I should have bought one. Man, I should have bought one.
That's so funny.
So then it took off from there. I knew my dad was good at painting things, boat parts and stuff like that from over the years. So he helped me throw some paint on it. And I think you filmed some of that back in
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah. Back when I was doing Musicians Daily.
And I bought all the pickups that I wanted, bought a neck off Mikey and put all the parts together. And I thought it was just got to work with my dad building the thing. So it
Yeah.
was super sentimental. And just figuring out all the ins and outs of wiring up a guitar, how to properly place a bridge, what pickups you want, and what your sound
And it was
that
a
you're going
super
for.
easy process the whole time.
Yeah, it was a miserable process. The painting part, that was tough. I don't know. I'll never do it again. I did it 2 more times after that, but I'll never do it again. But it's just sanding and getting the right gloss because I wanted it to look like it came straight from the guitar store, like straight from the Fender factory. I didn't want any missed drips or anything like
Yeah.
that. So it came out really nice, but it took a while to get there. There's a lot of sanding, You get one little drip and you got to sand the whole thing down and start over again. But
What are your recommended tips for anybody who wants to kind of build a guitar?
oh, buy one that's already painted. And I call it building, and Kevin always gets on me. He's like, you're not a guitar builder. You're like the IKEA of guitar builders. He's like, you just put them
The
together.
parts caster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
put them
yeah.
together. But that's all I needed. I know what pickups I wanted. I know how I wanted things to play and stuff like that. So I like putting together my own things. It's cool I love the different looking guitar. I always wanted like bright, pastel colors that Fender didn't really offer much, but they were like kind of vintagey colors. And then I always wanted like weird looking pick guards and things like that. I wanted my guitars to kind of stand out. I loved like the peacocking of like, oh, look at that guy's guitar. That's pretty cool. Because we all do it when we go to a show and you're just like, what's he playing on, But I always wanted people to be like, I don't know what the hell he's playing on.
Yeah, the quote Kevin has always said, always stuck with me. It's just like everyone eats with their eyes too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just little things like that.
I didn't know he said something.
Yeah, something so profound.
Yeah, he always
You-
says
you
mean
spread-
things to
You
me.
spread boys say some good
Yeah.
shit sometimes. I just put it in my
Once in a
pocket and just
while.
make it my own now.
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, that's why I had my Gretsch. It was orange. I had that painted pink.
Yeah, I
'Cause I'm
remember.
just like, this orange is too orange. So I had somebody paint it pink.
Yeah,
and-
we started the Pink Club back
yeah,
then.
yeah, exactly. But it's like one of those things. I remember playing like a church service for like a women's devotion or something. I was asked to play. I'm like, can you bring the pink guitar? I'm like, yeah.
There you go. It gets special requests sometimes. I
Yeah.
tell you. It did really well at the Rosé Festival we played one time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was just always trying to stand out. That was always my wanted to be punk thing, was trying to stand out and have things that nobody else did. But I'm glad I did it, and like I built the Jaguar after that and customized it how I wanted to, because those were obnoxious guitars to play without being customized or set up properly.
It's
But
almost finding a problem and how to do a solution.
Yeah.
And I don't know, especially with speaking with creatives, I don't know if it's just kind of like I'll just figure it out myself, do it myself, and just like this earning of just kind of getting your hands dirty
Yeah.
to kind of have that real connection to kind of happen, or I don't know if it just kind of comes from pure just ADHD, where it's just like I'll do this now and then I'll do this now.
yeah, and that's kind of how I dipped into photography and things like that. It's like once I'm happy where I am in music, I need something new that I need to figure out and
Yeah.
struggle with, and that's about when I started like getting into the photography and vintage cameras and film.
Is that really kind of how it came about, where it just kind of was it like almost like a plateau of like where you felt relationship wise with music and you're just like I need something else? Because I mean this is always kind of
Actually, I mean, kind of, sort of. It was kind of forced. It was COVID. I mean, I always had like a bit of background because of the family film shop
Yeah.
and the family doing photos and stuff like that. But I knew when COVID hit, we couldn't do the shows anymore. So we were at standstill. I couldn't be creative. I couldn't get out and make music anymore or play shows. So I, saw this old camera sitting on my shelf, and I was just like, I wonder what I can do with that thing. And to the point where like I knew people were starting to do the live streams at venues. So all the, bands would get to go hang out at a venue to get to see each other again. But nobody else was allowed into the venue. Nobody else could be around. But I kind of like came up with the idea. I'm like, well, hey, I've been playing with this camera for a week or so. What if I come out and take some pictures of you guys playing and up doing the live stream stuff? Because that's just going digitally and being burned after that. I'm like, what if I get some pictures of you guys playing? And that's where that love kind of took off. And it's like I started going out to all these different venues, and I'd be the only person in there, me, the bar staff, and then, that were there doing inventory or something, trying to kill time and still get a paycheck, and the musicians. So I was getting to hang out with all my music buddies again, and got to shoot. And I got lucky the first few rolls of film with this old camera that had no light readings.
and you went straight into film
Yeah.
when shooting. When you
I didn't own a digital yet.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Didn't own the digital yet. So I started on the film, and I didn't really know how to use it, but it was very bare basics kind of film camera. So if you set it right and a couple different things, and I always made sure my subjects were well lit, that you got some really good results from it. And then I dove into it and started going shooting every show I could with the film camera. And that was fun. Then I was having a blast with this one little beat up film camera until
What was it?
is a Mamiya Secor, shoot, I should know this, XT1000. It was my dad's first camera. I actually got it
shit.
tattooed on me. I should know the name of the camera.
Wait, where is it? Let me see.
Right
Oh,
there.
dope.
Kelly did over at Third
out
Eye.
to Kelly.
Kelly at Third Eye. But that was my dad's first camera that he got at a garage sale when he was like 17 years old. just started hanging out with my mom. So it was a
That's so special.
real
Yeah.
sentimental camera that he learned how to shoot on and things like that. And he gave it to me one day, and that was just sitting on my shelf for years. And finally, I started just using it every weekend I could.
Was that your first time taking photos with a camera?
No, I did a little bit in college. I took college classes for photography because I was trying to get into graphic design. Because again, I love creating art and stuff like that. And I
Especially
wanted,
at college, like, oh, I'll do that.
yeah. Again, I'm not very good at math or science, so yeah, I wasn't getting into accounting or anything like that. So I was like, graphic design, that seems up my alley. I love creating. I love art. And at least I can make flyers for my band if I need to.
Yeah, exactly. Serves a purpose.
Yeah, so I took it in college, and I didn't really grasp it well, but I really enjoyed like the few roles that I shot and developing and stuff because
And it was film in college too. They were
yeah, because they made you start. But get back to that. It made you start for graphic design doing black and white film photography. It was part of the curriculum that you had to take. And I thought it was cool to hand develop things because, my family had I wasn't even working here at the time, but my family had the film lab, photo lab. So I got to see like the process of developing film, making pictures from that sheet of film.
Is that Palm Beach State you're doing that?
Yeah, Palm Beach State College.
Dude,
Yeah.
I thought about when I was there, I thought about taking that class.
It was good. I wasn't ready for it then.
Yeah.
I was falling asleep in class and I wasn't paying attention. If I could take the class all over again, I would
I feel
eat
the
it up.
same way, which is pretty funny now.
Yeah, I was not ready for it then, but now if I could redo everything I did then, I would totally eat it up. She was trying to teach me everything I didn't know until I had to learn myself.
Right.
Which is kind of nice to learn things on your own and learn them the hard way, because then I won't forget them.
Yeah.
won't make that mistake twice. But yeah, so it started on the film. And then it was Michael O'Malley let me hold a digital camera for the first. I've always used my parents' digital cameras to go backtrack. Mm-hmm. I always borrowed their really nice digitals from the shop, and I'd go make surf videos, skate videos, and stuff with all the homies back in the day. And I really enjoyed video editing and putting it out and posting pictures of my friends surfing. And that was my early introduction to photography and digital and stuff like that. But never dove into it for a profession or anything. So back to where I was at. Mm-hmm. O'Malley gave me a digital for the weekend. He said, "Hey, borrow it, try it out." And it was the Sony A7 III that you had, I have. So I really saw how good of a camera that was and the shots I was getting and how easy it was. And there was instant results because I'm using film and waiting a day or two to get them back. But I was just like, oh, this is amazing. So that's when I really started being like, I could charge for things like this.
Yeah, no, for real.
I can make money off my creativity.
even your projection, I always tell people when they ask me, just like, I want to get into photography, but like I don't really know what to shoot or like how to shoot or even just to kind of like get comfortable with it. And I always recommend go to a live show.
Yeah.
One, because you'll find just the social anxiety too of just being around people with your camera and being in front of people and just trying to have the situational awareness. And then two, dealing with different lighting scenarios on your subjects, and also all like the framing of the drumstick, or that person's in front of that person, so you want to get a really particular shot. And then three, if you can do same day delivery or some sort of like connection with the band and stuff, and just give them the photos too, so you have an actual avenue of where you can market your art and your content for, because musicians need it.
Absolutely. Of course, that's how we met you at first too.
Yeah.
And you started coming. So that's like the biggest, best advice you can give is like go to a show and shoot, because the networking there is just like second to none. You're going to meet people in the crowd that are interested in what you're shooting. People are going to ask you to take their photos. You're going to get their numbers. The band is going to use your shots potentially. Yeah. They'll post them to social media. All you do is you don't, if you're getting started, you don't ask them for any money, especially if you just show up to shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
You just ask them to please credit you.
Yeah.
And it's a huge networking thing. And I think that's how I really got started, with shooting the bands first.
And also it's just the network of people you already knew. Because we've known each other for a handful of years. And then the moment I picked up the camera, and it was around the same time I stopped drinking. So instead of me drinking at a show, I just had my camera and just kind of getting acquainted with it too. Mm-hmm. And the only lens I had was an 85 prime. So I'm way back there, running up here, running over there too. But that really forced me to kind of just find different perspectives too.
Absolutely.
And then since everyone's friends with everybody, supporting each other, I'm like, here's the photos. But then slowly realizing like that built something huge.
Yeah, then the word of mouth just spread, and then people are just like, oh, we love your concert photography. You think you can shoot a wedding? And I was just like, I did the same thing to you though.
For real.
But yeah, that's how it starts. And then you shoot a wedding, and then you shoot an event, and then you shoot engagements, and you shoot baby photos, you shoot products, you're all over. You shoot anything. People just like, and I love a new challenge. So people are like, this isn't really your style. Will you do it? I'm like, absolutely, because I want to learn how to do it. And like, I don't know why I love challenging myself, but I think making myself feel awkward and scare, I get a high from it. But it's just I don't know. Once you get comfortable with something,
Yeah.
it's just you're at a pace and you're just like, okay, I can do it. I can do it. I'm comfortable, and it's just like I love doing things that make me uncomfortable.
Well, it's even like what you said earlier. It's just like you can actually see yourself growing.
Yeah.
You can't do that if you're just being comfortable the whole time.
Yeah, and I like being proud of it. Like, look, I actually did it. I do know how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I got so many gray hairs and wrinkles from all the stress I've given myself. But
I know, right? Yeah, you're your own worst critic, and it's just
Yeah.
the whole world's falling apart there. But yeah, going from concert photography. So, what do you find more enjoyment with?
I got to say, this is still my first love, my biggest love is concert photography. I'm
Yeah.
a musician at heart, and like I love concert photography because you know what's about to happen. I mean, even when I was doing surf photography and being a surfer, you know what's about to happen next. You know when that light's gonna hit. You know when that person's gonna strum. You know when that drum's gonna beat. So it's like being part of the show for me still, even though I'm not up on that stage. Like I know what's gonna happen in every direction for the most part.
Yeah, being on both sides of the lens helps tremendously.
Yeah.
Too, and also just kind of leaving like the etiquette of just seeing how the whole operation, 'cause it's kind of flowing too. There's something special about it for sure when you see a musician taking your photos too.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. And I loved hooking up all the friends and stuff too with sending them some photos. You definitely absolutely zero money in concert photography. Don't recommend it if you're trying to make money off of it, but it's the most rewarding for
Well,
me.
even anything with just creativity and art, I feel like that if you're going into that with the intention of making money, you
Yeah.
better just be good with numbers and just go into accounting.
Yeah, you gotta get real creative at being creative because the starving artist is not coined for nothing.
Oh my gosh, ain't that the truth? So,
Yeah.
are you doing more film or digital these days?
I kind of took a step back from how much I was promoting myself for wanting to go shoot for work because, like music, the whole job aspect started becoming it, and it started becoming more pressure and more scheduled, and deadlines, and I just had more edits than I knew what to do with in a week. So the film thing is my creative release. I've never marketed that will do that for money or anything like that. Yeah, it's still my creative nature. It's what I have control over still, because there's no control in film sometimes.
Yeah.
But like it's still its purest art form. So that's why I love film, and I shoot so many different types of cameras because I'm trying to figure them all out. I'm master of all but a master of none, something like that. I love cameras that give me issues. I love the challenge still.
So
So
yeah, even with like noticing that camera during COVID, taking it off, kind
Yeah.
of tinkering with it and working, and then that almost like catapulted yourself to find other vintage cameras to kind of tinker with, right?
yeah. So that's the fun in it too. It's just like vintage instruments that I used to love getting into is finding these vintage cameras. The cameras that built the industry that is today, and seeing the evolution of how far it's come. So I tried to start at the bottom and try to work my way up and figure out how to use the oldest cameras possible and figure out how they work. And they're all very cool machines. They're all very mechanically built. There's no batteries to some of them and things like that, and you just had to see how mechanics worked, and I always was fascinated by that. And they all do different things, different effects and different lightings and coloring and stuff like that. So it's been fun to kind of learn. There's so much out there and to experiment with. I love the experimentation of the film photography and digital too, but a lot of the experimentation and digital is in the editing side of things, which is a lot of fun to deal with too when you don't have like a deadline.
Yeah, amen to that. So what are some of your favorite, like if someone wants to get into film photography, what would you recommend? Like what are some first steps? Should they get like just like an easy Pentax to start with, maybe like a point and shoot, but they want to get into film, some of the money, there's like, it's an expensive dark hole. What would you kind of recommend to somebody?
My biggest recommendation is to do it kind of the way I did. I mean, the point and shoots are easy. You're going to get exactly what you're hoping for most of the time. But you'll never learn from it. That camera is ready to take a good shot, and they're fun. I'm definitely recommend getting one. They're great to carry around and bring out and about and stuff like that. And but I think getting, an old manual camera and learning the settings of it and learning what each part does, because that will really teach you what everything's doing. It'll make you a better digital photographer too. If digital photographers are ever looking to get into film, highly recommend it because,
I've seen it more lately.
yeah,
I mean, it's freaking you really light the fire into me.
yeah,
And of just kind of like what the possibility of just even creatively it really teaches you kind of just like slow down.
yep,
And I mean, everything that we kind of talked about with the ad
yeah,
here of just like slowing down, cherishing all those moments
for
too, and then
sure.
just kind of really making you present.
That's the way I am with digital is I'm not a very focused shooter. I just blast away. And I'm
Pray and
trying...
spray, baby.
Yeah, that's me. Please don't look at my shutter count. But I'll just blast away to capture an event, and I thousands of photos to look through at the end of the night. The cool thing about film is it's you got to really focus on your shot. You got to really set it. You got to compose it, and you got to really just take a breath and release and click. And you only got 36 of them till you got to bust everything out and reload. So I think that film kind of made me slow down a little bit with my digital work too, diving heavily
Yeah,
into
yeah,
it.
especially going back to the other one too, from digital going to film, doing some
It's
film.
fun to mix
going
them
back
both up.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I recommend doing both. You don't have to be one or the other. My free time I'm shooting film, and my work time I'm shooting digital. But it's just been a fun learning process, getting to play with all the different toys and tools and stuff. And one of these days, maybe I'll be comfortable enough. Maybe I'll focus on one film camera and learn it well enough
Yeah.
to where I'll charge for it.
Oh, and that's the truth. Do you have any favorite photographers? I mean, because I like even in the music aspect, it's funny that you mentioned like Nirvana being a big inspiration for
Yeah.
you, kind of as you're starting off. And I would imagine kind of like all the other stuff too. But with photography, I don't know if there's like a particular photographer that you've seen work that you admire, or it could be anybody here.
There's
Anybody
so
well known.
many. I think unfortunately I haven't dove into it real hard. I'm not one of those photographers that when I see their work, I love it. I
Yeah.
like it. But in this social media world, I like it and I heart it and I do all the stuff, but I'm so bad with names and things like that. One that really sticks to me that I do like is that Peter McCannon. I probably said his last
McKinnon, yeah.
McKenna. I knew I was
Yeah.
going to mispronounce it. That's why I didn't want to say names. But he's one that I really do like, and I think he plays in both worlds, the digital.
Yeah,
and the
as of
film.
recently for sure. He was like one of the biggest inspirations for me to like actually pick up a camera
Yeah.
and just get the creativity out, because the way he just kind of just explains, talks about it, it's just really just like the individual yourself. And this is such a tool where you can like actually like take all these ideas and make them come to life somehow. And it's just so funny because years ago I was speaking at a media conference about because through Musicians Daily, the platform was how to grow a following. And then I kind of flipped it. I'm like, you don't really want to grow a following. I'd rather just create an audience that you want to like bond with and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was going to use Peter McKinnon as an example because that year, like he crushed on YouTube. I think he did 1 million subscribers within the year. So I'm on this panel with like 4 other people that are just, I shouldn't even be up here sort of thing. And I was asking them, I was trying to make an example. So I'm like, who here's heard of Peter McKinnon? I thought hands were going to be flying in the air. No one raised their hand.
I know.
And then the person next to me was just like, that's so embarrassing. I'm like, shut the fuck up. And then, it was horrible, but it was funny. But no, Peter McKinnon's now such a staple and such a like a big like almost like on the Mount Rushmore of just photographers in like this day and age. But exactly what you said. Digital had that kind of just fire for something else.
Yeah.
And then slowed back down, went to film. And then
Yeah.
I think he posted a video of like shooting 365 days of just film.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's why he really stood out to me this, and I was like, I'm gonna remember that name.
And his
I was
work
like,
is incredible.
work is really incredible. I've been following him for years, but once he did that 365 days of film, I was like, what a challenge! Like, how cool! And like, I love that. So like, that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
And there's even around here, there's some digital photographers professionally that are now shooting a bunch of film that are coming through the shop here that I really respect, and they got some great shots on
Yeah.
both formats too, like Greg Panis and Dan Newcomb and stuff like that. And
Greg's awesome.
yeah, so I really appreciate people that are using both tools.
Yeah.
And I think it's fun. It always keeps it interesting. You're never steady doing one thing. But yeah, that Peter McKinnon, he stuck out to me, and that some of his work I love like the look and the feel of it, and just his style is really cool.
Yeah, no, there's a couple YouTube channels. This one girl, I think her name's like T Hopper or something. She is like a commentary YouTuber, but she'll take like photographers and or just subjects and then really give like a brief history lesson on some photographers
Oh,
and
cool.
just like the way she explains of like how their approach with just capturing certain photos, like true street photography in New York back in
Yeah.
the day, just like running in your face, snapping a
That's
photo,
what
running
there.
away.
There was this one. I wish I should have remembered her name, but there was this one female photographer back in the '30s that was just an amazing New York street stylist. And I'm sure if I paid more attention in film photography class 101, might have remembered their names and all that. But I see her pictures posted around all the time on Instagram and stuff. But
And it's crazy because I mean, it's so obvious what I'm about to say, but how social media, internet,
Yeah.
whatever, pop culture was so different back in the day. So all of these shots that people are trying to see, they're not thinking like, oh, here's my mood board on Pinterest I'm
Yeah.
gonna follow real quick too. I mean, from my understanding, they just see the perspective, what looks good, and they like it. I mean, something as simple as like even like Wes Anderson stuff. The way,
yeah,
like he like lines
Wes
up
I mean,
shots.
I love how people color palette things these days
yeah.
and stuff too. And you know, Wes Anderson it goes into like videography. I know I have like a favorite surf videography, Kai Neville, and he started doing some really cool indie style films and stuff like that. And I think that kind of started getting me into the film, resurgence again too. Was the West Coast kind of picked up on it first, and the surf community was all starting to shoot.
All the cool shit happens there first.
Yeah,
And then it
always,
just
man.
waves
Fucking
here late.
Florida's the last one. It
Yeah.
finally trickles down the
Exactly.
panhandle. But yeah, the music out there, the surf culture and things like that, they started going back to the '70s culture and the look and feel for things. And I always loved that. That's when they all started shooting on Super 8 stuff, and that's what I'm going to dive into next. That's the next challenge. I've shot in a couple rolls, but I haven't sent it off for development
Dude,
yet.
yeah.
Don't
When
worry.
you do, you need to do
Yeah.
a seminar class
Yeah.
here at the shop for sure, and I'll buy
I
a ticket.
know. That's the next dive is into movie film, and I love that movies are now being created on film again too.
I know, is that nuts?
Everything's being reshot on it. So
Yeah, the
that's
movie
awesome.
role that you denied that I took over.
Yeah, it was shot on film.
Yeah, without that, they shot all those shots on film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Dang, I should have gone to that. Multiple things I should have gone to for that.
So would you say that's like your next like creative challenge, I guess, ahead is kind
Yep.
of like understanding just video film.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, how to shoot it first. I know we've played with shooting a couple of them, and I think I got the whole shooting thing down. But then how to edit that analog film to not let it lose its analog feel to it too.
Yeah.
It's probably an important thing. But I mean, luckily there's still the digital age the digital age is here where we can take that analog stuff and make it digital and work on it easier. But I can't imagine back in the day using the splicing machines and
Gosh, yeah. I mean,
cutting tape
have
for
you
hours on
recorded
it.
on tape before as a musician?
Yeah.
So
It
you
was a
see
process.
that process. I can imagine, being like in a production studio shooting a film.
Yeah. It's got to be nuts. I just can't imagine all that splicing and hours that goes into it, and you can't even see what's going on.
Yeah, like the small potential of like re-recording something as a musician.
Yep.
Not the end of the world, but getting the whole cast back out there just to shoot some
Yeah.
certain, it's insane. But when it comes to video stuff, though, let's flip on more on the digital side. Are you experimenting with any? Because I've
I am.
shot a music video.
Yeah, I'm starting to work more on music videos. So yeah, video is my next dive into challenging myself. So putting together, learning how to shoot it more, learning how to put it together more. Of course, I don't have time ever for video editing. That is the most time-consuming thing in the world. So the challenge really is finding the time to do it. But I love it. I love when a video comes out and its final product, hours and hours of work, and then you've created something, timeless once a video comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time getting older, especially we all have 24 hours in a day, and it's just like how we utilize it and be able to do it. But the best part is about when it's done, it's completed, and it's out there too. I mean, just the fact that there's like a thought, conception or whatever it is, and now it's out there. I mean, that's like someone like Virgil too. The creative mind he was and is. All the stuff that he was able to do, and just like that book that did you have his book?
No, not yet.
Like the random thoughts that he would always have.
I wish I got a
thing.
copy of it. I'll have to ask Ben for it, but no, I really want to. I know a few people got to see his poems and all that stuff.
It was incredible. But the first day I met him, I think it was playing down at the Funky Buddha.
Oh yeah, way back.
Yeah, way back in Boca with the Jam of the Sweets. States, and then when I met him, that I think it's the first thing he said to me, gave me his book. He's like, yeah, I don't know, it's just like my thing. It's just like
awesome.
yeah, any creative. It's like, oh, you know, here's my art. And
that's somebody that just can't contain the creativity. Like it's just spewing out of him. That he just has to throw it up in which direction.
Exactly. I mean, it's just so funny in that way. But I remember like showing my wife that, and that's like the first thing that she said. She's like, it's so cool. Like, even though this is, some of it's silly, but like, I was reading it like leading up to his service, and like there's some really like profound stuff of just like family he talks about in there too. And then there's like a chapter about vaginas. It's just like, and it's just here, it's here. There's about mooses and stuff. But it was just the fact that he had an idea, put it into action, and completed it. And he's like, this is something I'm proud of too. The fact that like the first day I met him, he's like, here you go. It's just, I don't know, like the creative brain, the creative mind, the creative act is just like, has like such a ripple effect too, where it can just lead into so much inspiration. I mean, dude, even with me and you, I remember being like 16, 17, seeing the coolest band in town, Spread the Dub, and then just seeing this ripping guitar player with long hair. And then you guys easily could just be like, who's this freaking annoying kid, kind of get out of here sort of thing. But no, I mean, it's just like that ripple effect of like being inspiration, being cool, and just be like, hey, what do you do sort of thing. And then just now the whole, when time kind of goes on, the next generation of doing that
absolutely too. I've always been a really strong encourager of just, if you're about the arts, you're about being a creative person, you're putting yourself out there, then I'm here to help. However, if there's anybody that ever has questions about anything that I've done, hopefully I remember how I did it. And I can help answer them. But everybody, it's cool when you come together. You learn from everybody else's styles. You learn from everybody else's creative thoughts. And it helps piece it all together. But I'm always down to like teach what I know to the next generation. That's the beauty of like working here in the shop, is all these kids diving into photography. And any questions, like if I see somebody kind of struggle with something or they ask a question, I'll jump right up from whatever I'm doing. And it's like, well, let's see what you need to do here.
Yeah.
And
I bet that's awesome.
Yeah, I love doing
it. It teaches yourself something too. I mean, I remember, like, you probably have given guitar lessons at some point.
I have, yeah. I mean, one of my proudest things is I gave this one. I've taught a few kids, and one really took on to it and really did so well with it. This guy, this kid Zach, he's up in Nashville right now.
Oh shit!
Trying to do his thing, but he's 10 times the player that I am now. He's got an amazing voice, and he's a super creative kid that just never really found his band. He's tried a few, but now he's up there trying to do his solo thing, and hopefully he finds the right guys. But it just, I've taught a few students of mine that have, become better than the teacher. They have now become the master.
Yeah, it's funny.
Mark Garner, he's an amazing guitar player. He's out in California now doing his thing. But it's cool to see him. You teach them the fundamentals, and then they really get the craving for it, and then they just keep going and going and going. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, even through that process, you start like learning stuff about yourself, but also just like how things kind of work. It's almost like not the like physical aspect of like re-engineering something, if it's like a camera, if it's a guitar, seeing how it works, but just like a concept and a process of art where it's just like this song, you're learning it yourself and having to explain to somebody. It's like, so I can imagine just being at the shop here and just like explaining like the fundamentals of film and getting people excited. Because you probably have some people that are discouraged when they come in here like, oh, my role's blank. I mean,
of course.
That's me speaking personally.
Yeah, of course. And then I'll always like call them or jump up to the counter and save their stuff. And I'm like, here's what you did wrong. Here's what's going on with your camera. These are what these settings are for. If you didn't use these settings, you try to tweak it this way and try this roll of film. And like, I don't let people get discouraged here. I'm always trying to keep them going because once it clicks, it'll click and they'll keep going.
And that's such a true statement.
And that's why I love teaching guitar too. That was, a big challenge. Like, I'm not much of a teacher, but I know the pieces that I absorbed from my teacher. And so always my first lesson, I was like, yeah, a lot of people are going to try to teach you the right way. I'm going to teach you my way. It's not the right way. If you want to get the right way, you totally can. But like here's what I thought was cool, and here's how I learned to do what I do. And it's the same thing with photography and music. It's probably not the right way, but it's the way I learned it. It's how I make what I do.
That really like gives an individual their style, their flair, their uniqueness too. Where it's like I'm taking tools that you are teaching me how to do, and I'm learning some stuff over here, and now I'm having a little bit of like a foundation for me to kind of seek after information myself because I kind of have a direction where to go.
Yeah, because I know that like teachers, I've tried to get in the technical side of things, and they just lose me.
Yeah,
not a very technical player, learner, anything like that. So it's
But
just,
even those technical teachers, sometimes it's like for them to kind of just shift a little bit too, and then sneak that in some way.
Yeah.
Because Mike Kerr, that plays guitar for Bryce Allen,
yeah,
when
shredder.
yeah, yeah, dude, shit. But I've started playing when I was like in 5th grade, and then I got to the point where I'm like, all right, I kind of want some lessons because I don't really know where to go from here.
Yeah.
And Mike was my guitar teacher at Jupiter Music
Awesome. No way.
for a long time, and then I remember him like teaching me like tabs and like just getting me like. And I look back now, just excited about the guitar
Yeah.
and just like little like achievement things. And then I remember him showing me bar chords for a little bit, and I'm just like, I don't freaking know how to, like, my hand hurts.
Bar chords were such a struggle.
Dude,
It was so
yeah,
your hands
it's
it's so
such
sore.
a struggle. But then even like some stuff with like the circle fifths and just kind of like all of the like the fundamentals of just theory a little bit too. And then I remember just being a kid and just not having that click a certain way, but then him teaching me something else and then kind of like, and then
Bringing it back.
Yeah, bringing it back and stuff will click. And I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, he taught me that. There's like, I don't know, like the handbooks that he would write for certain lesson stuff that I would refer back. I'm like, oh my God, he did teach me this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember that thing I tried to tell you? Well, if you'd listened, this would be a lot easier.
But it's like it's such a skill itself too, to just kind of like educate and teach, but also the most important part of just like having fun and being excited about
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
So I mean, even being at the shop here, so you weren't. I mean, this has always been in your family and what you do, but like, how did you kind of end up working here?
Oh, I think you can't put too much of creativity on paper for taxes. So.
Yeah.
I think finally it was just time to come, get a 9-to-5er. So I had some proof of income at some point. But once I did, I was glad I did it because it really, I grew up around the photography business and didn't know how much a part of me that it was until I started working here. And once I started learning how to edit photos, bring them back to life, converting people's old stuff, doing the film photography stuff here.
Would you say just being in this environment just completely elevated, like on the path that you're already going?
Yeah, it kicked it off. Like I was kind of on the borderline of it, and then it just kind of like helped really pick it up. And it was just like being around the photography world all day long, and like teaching people things all day long because people don't know. They bring in their cell phone photos all day long and they don't understand why it looks good on a phone, but they want to blow it up the size of the wall and it doesn't. So it's like, I get to teach, I get to do my photography, and just being around people all day long it can be fun. There's some people that it's not fun, but but no, I love working at the shop. It's cool to say that your family started something, over half a decade ago and that you get to keep it going.
Blew my mind when this was connected with you and just the family business, because this has just been such a staple for anybody who's kind of like a born and raised Jupiter native or just even passing through Jupiter since the beginning of
and same thing with
whatever.
the West Palm store. As soon as I tell somebody, I'm like, oh yeah, I work with my family, we do 60 minutes photo, and they're like, man, I've been driving past that sign for 30 years wondering what it was.
Exactly, dude. It's awesome. And then, being able to kind of do that ad with you guys, that was a very fun collaborative process.
That was so much fun. And again, we got to work with so many other creators on that one. And I think that was the most fun part. It wasn't just an ad. It was just a really like a creative think tank with a bunch of other photographers that I really respect and enjoy seeing their stuff come through all the time.
And that's always my personal approach, and I feel like we're kind of cut from the same cloth in that regard too. So that's why when you're like, hey, I have this kind of thing, what can we do with this? And I'm like, well, I actually do it like this. And you're like, yeah, if this is how you kind of flow, let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. And you're bouncing ideas off each other all the time.
Yeah.
Like that, there's one girl that is a fantastic wedding photographer. She does film and Super 8 and stuff like that. She comes in here all the time. And she asked,
You know who it is?
Oh man, name right off the top of my head. Kayla.
Okay.
Yeah, her name's Kayla. I can't pronounce her last name. Please don't make me do that.
Yeah, we got that first. We got that first. Yeah, so that's good.
But Kayla, I'm sorry if you ever hear this, and I can't think of your last name off the top of my head. But she's fantastic, and she did a styled shoot. Now she came in here one day. She's like, "Oh yeah," she's like, "I do the wedding stuff," and somehow she figured out that. She started following me and I followed her and she found out that Jessie was my wife.
She did
the styled wedding shoot.
Yeah, dude, that was incredible.
It was amazing. She's a fantastic photographer, but she knew my wife from way back in the day. She tried to get her to do a shoot with her, and then she found out that I was working here and all that, so she put it together finally. and we went and shot with the Super 8 and the film and stuff, and we did a styled wedding shoot like literally a week after you shot our wedding. You're like, did you get married again? I was like, nah, not for reals, but we're still married from the last time. But it was cool to work with her. But yeah, we're just walking around doing all these things, and it was fun working with another creative and another photographer, because I'm just like, well, what about this shot here? What about this pose? And it was just so fun. There were three of us just four of us bouncing ideas, because my wife shoots too, and she had somebody else shooting with her. So it was really cool bouncing ideas off of each other and seeing how other creatives work. And like a lot of the shots that I suggested got used, and then like a lot of the shots I would have never seen that she used. It cool
opens up your mind in such a different way. But I almost feel like that's such a learning experience and a skill itself to be able to communicate and collaborate with other creators without it feeling like, oh, you're stepping on my toes or something like that, or just even taking it personally too. Especially when you're kind of doing it for the love of the art and creating versus you're doing it for kind of your income, and it's a business and it's serving a purpose this way. So it's funny kind of coming from like the musician background too, of like garage band, because my first garage band was with Joey. Joey Calderé was like my first band I was in.
That's right. I remember seeing you guys at Propaganda as well.
Yeah. Way back in the day.
Godzilla.
Even before that, we had something called Medallion.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
and it's awesome. You guys are still working, putting videos and songs together and stuff too.
Yeah, dude. That's what it's about. I mean, of course, life isn't always like that too. When you kind of get older, does this, but then you kind of mature and kind of does that stuff too. And then also you kind of have your own walk of life too. Then you kind of just figure it out, sort of thing.
Yeah, the thing about the art and that, you can always come back to that place though. Wherever it kicked off.
Yeah, dude, exactly. Well, I mean, dude, the way I kind of end these, I don't really have like a profound ending, but if someone listened to this whole thing, what is one thing you would like really want to drive home from everything that we kind of talked about?
Well, one thing I think I really want to drive home is just, don't be scared to challenge yourself with your creativity. Don't let it get stale. Always come up with new ways to frustrate yourself, and from that frustration might grow into something, rewarding that you can use for the rest of your life. Don't ever let, the doubt stop you from being creative. You just got to try, and you just got to keep going, and, you might fall, but pick yourself back up. And if you don't fall, you're gonna start running faster than you've ever run before. So it's just to never give up and always challenge yourself. Never stop creating, kind of thing.
And go to 60-Minute Photo.
And go to 60-Minute Photo, please. My pleasure, man. Always great talking.
Easy.